it's the extreme sports of extreme sports. There's a lot of people who died doing this. A lot of people. The police understand that what we do is a sport. Once I get to the top, I do a few selfies with the police. They congratulate me, and then, I go to jail. I don't care about going to jail. I just see it like I'm gonna keep trying to be as safe as possible in my life, keep doing things I can control, and this is how I'm gonna die old, not young.
Have you ever climbed up a building nearly 700 feet? Well, that's exactly what my next podcast guest has done. Alexis Landor is a freestyle solo urban climber. He defines all odds, he's a go-getter, he's a striver, and he likes to overcome his fear of dying by climbing buildings. Enjoy this episode, it's one to remember. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my podcast, Steve Sully Study. I've got a very different guest in front of me, someone that is an athlete, someone that is a go-getter, someone that is a mover and shaker, someone that strives to do something a little bit different. So Alexis Landor, thank you very much for your time. And I'm really looking forward to having this conversation with you.
Thank you very much for inviting me on the podcast. And I'm here to answer all the questions.
Perfect. So I've done a little bit of studying and research on you. My findings is you're really young still, 22 years of age. Is that right?
Yeah, 22 years young.
Yeah. I mean, Christ, if I could go back and be 22 again, I'm 36.
Yeah.
But if I could go back at being 22, cool, you've got some really good years ahead of you. So you're already making some great waves in your sport, in your profession. And it's very exciting to know and feel that in 10 years' time, you're going to be a household name in your industry.
Wow, that's really nice. I really hope so. But what you say is really true. And I often say this to myself. I often say to myself, like, oh, you're already 22. You're getting old. You got to train harder. You don't have much time. And yeah, I'm really scared to wake up one day and be like, oh, wow, I spent the half of my life and I don't know, like I've wasted time, because it's a resource. It's a really precious resource that we have in abundance. Abundance, right?
Abundance, yeah.
Abundance, yeah. When we're young and we don't realize how precious it is until we run out of it. So yeah, time is definitely something that I care for. But I'm not really young. I mean, like, there are some athletes, like, I wish I started sooner still, I wish I was 18, but yeah, I'm 22.
So my research tells me that you've been climbing for about 14 years, but the quote unquote urban climbing, and I don't know whether that's the right title for you, like an urban climber, but I can see here that you've been doing it for 2 years, and your first climb was in 2019 up your first skyscraper. Is that correct?
I think my first urban climb was in probably 217 or 18, but my first big skyscraper was in 219, yeah.
Yeah, and that was Albert Tower, yeah?
Albert Tower was the one in 2018.
So I see here that you've climbed Total Tower, Marriott Tower. I'm going to try and pronounce this right. The Montparnasse Tower, and of course the Albert Tower, and there's plenty more. So if we strip it back to the start then, okay? Because when I was at school, and the friends and the colleagues and the family I've got, nobody does climbing. There's one guy I know that is very, very fit, and he's very, very athletic, and he goes to a local climbing wall, and he's really good. But he's the only guy I know, and he's 65 years of age. He's incredible. So, like, I saw that your dad noticed that you love to climb, and he introduced you to that world. But why have you decided to make it a profession, Alexis?
So yeah, you're right. My dad, he saw that I was into climbing. He was actually so tired of having to watch me when I was outside in the streets. Like, I was trying to climb everywhere when he was not looking. And so yeah, because of this, he told me, now, Alex, you're gonna climb the gym. You love rock climbing too much to not try it out. At first, I was like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to just keep, climbing in the streets, like jumping everywhere, being really annoying to my parents. And well, he took me, like, I didn't have any option, but he took me to the climbing gym, and I just loved it. Like I really fell in love with it, and I've been going to the gym now, for the same gym, for 15 years. I've been going daily there for 15 years now.
Okay. And why convert from your typical rock climbing to urban climbing? And if you can just, before you answer that, give your description to the audience that may not know what actually urban climbing is.
So, well, urban climbing is I would say, the most global word for climbing on something that is artificial. What I do is more precise. It's urban climbing, but I would say it's more precisely urban free solo. Free solo means the act of climbing without any safety rope or safety gear. So if you fall, you die. And yeah, what I do is urban free solo, which is a part of urban climbing. I usually tell people I do urban climbing because it's easier, for them to understand. Because I don't think anyone would understand if I said urban free solo. So I do urban free solo, which means climbing without a rope. We need kind of safety protection on big walls that are artificial, like skyscrapers. And yeah, I 2 years ago, I remember I was like, okay, I gotta do it. Like I was scared to do this my whole life, for good reasons. I was young, but yeah, I was scared to do this my whole life. And at some point, I told myself, it's over now. You're 18. You're an adult now. Like you have to do it. And I just did it. I prepared for a few months, and I told a few friends, like, hey, I'm going to climb these skyscrapers. So at first they were like, no, you're not. Stop. And after a while, I convinced them that I was going to climb it. And yeah, they just filmed me when I was climbing it, and I just climbed it. And this is like a childhood dream that goes way back. When I was starting to climb, I was already trying to search for this experience of climbing without a rope. Yeah, that's I've always been like this, especially like in urban environments. I've always been like impressed by the skyscrapers, and I like the idea to see those skyscrapers that are like urban mountains, and to take them at a human size. When I climb the skyscrapers, after a while, or even when I train for skyscrapers, it becomes like human size in a way. I don't know if I don't know if my language makes it understandable. My English is not the best, but yeah, like the skyscrapers go from being a huge thing that you can't see the top, to something that, okay, you can break it down, you can see the floors, you can see how long it's going to take to climb, etc., etc. So I always loved this idea of like climbing without a rope in the urban environments. I was like a Mission Impossible fan when I was a kid, and I just needed this thing of being able to control your body and your mind, and like go over fears, like basically like controlling the I hated luck, like I've I'm actually still like this, but I'm really scared of death. Like I got I think it's called thanatophobia, I think.
Mm.
Like I'm really really scared of dying, and it was way worse when I was a kid. And I'm also scared of people other around me dying. This was even worse when I was a kid, and I was always scared for my loved ones and for me to die. So this may sound a little like a paradox, but yeah, I'm climbing skyscrapers, and I'm really, really scared of dying. And like seeing Tom Cruise, climbing skyscrapers, I felt like this guy, he's not scared of dying because he knows what he's doing, he's trained for it. And I've always been like, oh, I need to be like this, not necessarily doing the exact same thing, but to control what I'm doing, so I'm not scared to die anymore. So I know I'm not going to die anymore. So I know that I'm in control of what's happening. And this is exactly how I can describe urban free solo, or free solo in general, is basically people often think it's like adrenaline. People ask me like, "Oh, what's in your head when you climb? You must be so panicked. You must be everything must be going so fast. You must have so much adrenaline." No, 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 no. When I climb, it's peaceful. It's really peaceful. Um, your mind understand that it it can't miss because otherwise you fall. So your mind forgets anything that is not important for the climb. Anything that will not help me climbing is gone for like an hour. And this kind of peaceful mind that you get, this kind of peaceful mind, I can only get it from doing urban climbing, urban free solo.
Okay.
So yeah,
Okay.
and it's a passion that goes way back. Like when I was a kid, I was watching Mission Impossible, or Alain Robert, who is the French Spider-Man, basically the one who created this whole sport. Yeah,
Yeah.
this goes
So
way back.
so the only small comparison I've got with my life and with the sport that I do with what you do, Alexis, and it's not very similar, but it's the closest kind of connection I can make to it. I do boxing. I've had 16 boxing fights, and it's a passion of mine. Okay, and what I enjoy about boxing is the sparring. Getting in there and going a few rounds sparring. Now the difference is you got head guard on, you got
Yeah,
16-ounce gloves, and even though there is danger and there is violence and there is pain that goes with that, the reality is you're kind of protected. Yeah, you got the mouth guard and everything else. But when you go into a fight, you have 10-ounce
yeah,
gloves on, no top on, and no head guard. And people
yeah,
ask me, why do you want to have a real fight when you could just kind of experience the same thing doing sparring? And even though sparring is quite close to the real fight, it is different. And I
yeah,
imagine your need, your want, your passion to climb without a harness or safety ropes is kind of like the same version of going into a real fight. But my question, being naive to what you do, is like, wouldn't you get the same thrill climbing a rock, I don't know, in Nevada, in Vegas somewhere, like the Grand Canyon, but with safety ropes on, because they're still going to be quite a good experience, right?
yeah. So I also love rock climbing, but there's a thing about free solo that I'm just in love with. I feel like I need this to get a control back in my life, get this fear of dying uh, out of my life for good. So yeah, I need to climb free solo, like not every day, like not even once a month, but I need to have those free solo goals in my mind that I know I'm gonna do one day and that I'm gonna train for it, because this way I know when I climb like this, my life is in my hands. It's not in someone else's hands. It's not. I don't put my life in a gear, in a rope. It's only in my hands, and knowing this makes me feel really comfortable when I climb free solo. If I know what I'm doing and I know exactly what I have to do to survive, I'm gonna be really comfortable, really.
Yeah.
And also, what you talk about boxing. So I didn't do much boxing, but I think the what I feel like 5 minutes before climbing a skyscraper, like no, like maybe like 20 minutes before climbing a skyscrapers. I think it's really similar to what a boxer experiences before a match, or a fighter experiences before a fight. Yeah,
Yeah.
I get like my arms are heavy. Um, I get a bit sweaty. My legs are heavy. I'm struggling to move. Like suddenly, I don't have much energy. Like you feel like you have to escape. And I think the hardest thing is to actually move toward the skyscrapers to go climb it, when your body tells you no, 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 I don't want to do this. Your body tells you no, danger, danger, don't do that. And you have to force your mind. Your mind has to force your body to actually go for it. And this is the hardest part. The hardest part of each of my climbs are from 20 minutes before the climb And after 10 meters, after I've done 10 meters, I'm okay. Like I'm in my elements, everything is good, everything goes as planned. But the moments just before the climb when I have to push my mind to actually walk towards the skyscrapers, and my body knows he's in danger. Like 3 hours before, I already have cotton mouth. Like my body knows I'm about to put it in danger, but I have to force myself to do this. And the feeling I get, I guess, is pretty similar to what a fighter feels before a fight. I guess I've done a few sparring, never real fights, but I guess it's pretty much the same. Like
Definitely.
you have to do it. You don't feel good, but you have to do it.
Yeah. So in life, there are scenarios and there's individuals where you either do the fight or you flight. Yeah. They're the two
Yeah,
coping mechanisms to get you out of
yeah,
trouble. And you have definitely got this fighting mentality, which I really admire. And I think to have it at the age that you've got it, and you seem very wise, you seem very determined, you seem like you know exactly what you want to achieve out of life. I really admire that. But where did that
thanks.
mindset come from? Was it homed in as a young kid? Did your mum and dad influence you? Where did you get that from?
So interesting questions. This one is going to require some thinking from me. Um, I would say my dad always teach me to like push it to the limit, you know? Like I've always had this education where, if I say I'm going to do something, I have to do it. Otherwise, I'm a disappointment. So yeah, so there's this thing maybe like where, like my dad taught me to never talk and not act, if I say I'm going to do something, I do it. And I guess, yeah, that always taught me how to like to always go further and always go to the end of my projects, never stop in the middle. And also, I guess I was a little bit born like this. Like I know I've always had this pure logical mind, in a way that opposed to like a more emotional one. So I've always known how to control my emotions, and this is the main um, quality of somebody who does free solo, so climbing without a rope, is to be able to close the emotions and use only the logical part of the brain. And the logical part of your brain tells you, okay, you're not in danger if you do exactly what you're supposed to do. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think I've always been born like this. Like I was born like this for this aspect, like really logical, not really emotional. I know how to deal with my emotions, and keeping a cold mind is important when you climb a skyscraper like this. A warm heart and a cold mind.
Okay. So I read an article that came out in November the 14th, 2021 by Journal Time. And it's actually a really good article. I really enjoyed it. And here's a quote that you said: "You must not let yourself be overwhelmed by your emotions, your fear." And basically, you've already kind of touched on what you were just saying there. So basically, when your emotions are telling you not to do something, you're the type of individual to push past that and go towards your goal. And if you said you're going to do something, your integrity makes sure that you follow it through.
Exactly. Where did you read that? Yeah.
It's I can send it to you. Journal Time, November the 14th, 2021. It was a quote that you said on there.
Oh, I said, oh wow,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I agree with this quote.
Yeah. And you also said, I need to feel that my life is in my hands.
Yeah,
So basically what I got from that is when you fear something, you don't let the fear control your life. You actually grab it and then you own it yourself.
exactly. It's all about control. When I was a kid, I was so afraid of losing control of my life, not being able to care for my loved ones, not be able to save them. I was always scared that they would die, and I'm still like this, by the way. It's of course, it's it's better now that I'm not 10 years old, but yeah, it used to be a big deal. And yeah, like doing this makes me take the control back in my hands. Literally, it's in my hands. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it definitely helps me coping with my fear of death.
Yeah. Before I come across you, Alexis, I've always been familiar with this French Spider-Man because I've seen lots of documentaries. And look, I've got no uh, need to do rock climbing or urban climbing or solo climbing, etc. But I really admire people like yourself and also the French Spider-Man because the you know the fear aspect and how you can overcome it. And his name is Alan Robert, and I've
Yeah.
got here that he's an inspiration of yours, is he?
So yeah, he's obviously like an inspiration because of what he's done. Like he has climbed the hardest challenge ever on rocks and on urban landscape. So he did like probably the hardest free solo ever on rocks and also the hardest free solo on urban climbing.
And which was
Like
that?
La Nuit du Lézard, and also he did another one in Verdun. He did the one that didn't have much grade. Well, still really high for free solo, but nothing compared to other grades he did. And but it was really like we have a word in French to say aléatoire, which means sometimes it's luck. There's a move and you have to like go grab it, and you don't know exactly where it is. So it's there's luck that goes in the equation. So yeah, he did like really incredible stuff, and this is why he inspired me when I was a kid, as well as Mission Impossible. I was looking at this guy Wikipedia and was like, wow. So what I saw on TV is actually possible in real life because of this guy. And this like ticked something in my brain. I was like, why not me? Like, why not? We can try maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe it's
yeah,
something I could be good at. It was like I was not sure of myself, and I didn't expect to go this far, honestly. But at some point in my life, I was tired of waiting, and I just did the climb. When I was 18, 17, or 19, I don't remember exactly. But yeah, my first climb, I was like tired of waiting, and I just did it.
yeah. Um, One thing that drew me towards Alan Robert when I was watching his documentaries and some of his interviews on YouTube is he literally dressed like Spider-Man. He literally took the outfit and started,
Sometimes, yeah.
yeah. And I found that really cool because like he literally turned himself into that superhero. And even though I know there's no such real thing as a superhero who's got magical powers, he kind of made you feel that he was a superhero in that present point in time.
Mm.
You know?
Yeah, yeah. Well, so I was not a fan of superhero movie at the time, and I'm still not. But I was really much inspired by the Mission Impossible, like kind of action movies, James Bond, Jason Bourne.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah. These
I,
are
I
good.
was just in love with those movies, and for me, he was not a human superhero. He was a human, like a real life secret agent. Like I wanted to be a secret agent when I was a kid, and he was this incarnation of this in real life.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I was like, possible.
yeah. Well, on your bio, just talking about superheroes, we've got a quote here on your bio that says half human, half machine. And I have to agree with that statement. You've got to be partly human, but also partly machine in order to do your thing. So let's talk about the mindset then when you're climbing and also some of the experiences you've gone through. I'm just going to ask you a point blank question, okay? Have you ever nearly died climbing a building?
So I haven't nearly died. I think. Well, the thing is that I think if I nearly died, I wouldn't know. So I wouldn't be able to answer. Like maybe at some point I almost put my feet on something slippery. I don't know, but the real what we fear. as free solo climbers is not to have like, okay, so there's either like a loose rock or loose piece of metal. For me it's a loose part of metal, but for rock climber, free solo rock climber, it's a loose rock. This is something we're scared about, of course, and this is something we can't really control as much as our own body. So it's really scary to like climbing. The only thought of taking a rock, putting your weight on it, and then it breaks is absolutely terrifying. And there's this, but our biggest fear is to actually run out of energy. Like you climb, and you feel that your forearm is running out of energy. This is a real fear. This is the really close call that, for example, many free solo climber had. I've never had this close call because I've only been doing this for like 3 years, and I'm trying to always push myself to the limits every training. So the day I'm gonna actually climb free solo, I should be technically in my comfort zone. The only moment where I'm leaving the comfort zone is when I actually go for the first few meters. After this, it's almost like automatic. Everything is almost automatic, like meditation. Like everything is really peaceful. So I haven't had any close call in this term, because a close call would mean that my forearm would start burning and pumping. And this is really scary. Like my friend Leo, he had, let's say, it's a close call. It's a closer call than what I've had, because he used to climb. We climbed a building together, and his forearm started to pump, like he was getting pumpy, and he was getting burned, in the forearms. Like he was like, it's getting hard. He told me afterwards, like his forearm was like really big, and he started to burn both of his forearms. So yeah, that's when trouble arrives. And any free solo climbers, Alan Robert would tell you the same. Like, what is really scary, what the danger is, that if you don't have much energy, at some point you can fight all you want. Your fingers are going to open. When there's no more energy in the forearm, the tendons goes like this. In the forearm, in the muscle of the fingers are there. So if you're done with your forearms, your finger, they just open. They don't even respond anymore. They will just open. And this is really scary. Can you imagine being, I don't know, 200 meters high, no rope, on skyscrapers, and you feel that your fingers are slowly starting to open like this? Yeah. So this is what we're trying to avoid as free solo climbers. So I've never had any close call in this way, but I've had some surprise, definitely some surprise. I have a few anecdotes of moments where I was like, oh, okay, time to, this cold mind, this only this no emotion mind that I've been talking about. Those are moments where I had to really, really show what what I had in mind, but that the emotional part is gone. So, for example, one time I was climbing the Montparnasse Tower, and it was the second time I climbed it. So I'm used to this tower. I know like how to climb it, and I wanted to climb actually with a different technique that is harder than the other ones, because I almost considered the other ones like cheating, because you can climb and you don't have to expose yourself to the ground, like to the emptiness behind you.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, I gotta climb again, because what I did was cheating. So I wanted to climb it again. And actually, it was probably my best climb in a way. Like, I felt so good the whole climb. I felt so good the whole climb. And when I reached the top, I was not even tired. But when I was 30 meters high, around 30 meters, maybe it's 20 meters, maybe it's 25, but enough to kill me, or, leave me forever, in a coma, maybe. I realized my chalk bag, so the bag that I have in my back, was upside down. So I have to take off both hands while still being, really close to the wall. Take both hands to actually take it off, turn it around, and put it back on again, and tie the knot and go back to climbing. And it's really it's also it's lucky because I was able to let go both hands on this one, but usually I'm not able to let go both hands. Like usually I can barely take one hands off. I can take one hands off a little bit, but not both hands, you know. And yeah, definitely a moment where I had to keep this really, cold mind thing in my head and no emotions because I could have panicked. I could have said, "Oh no, I'm going down." I no, no, no. I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna deal with this. I'm gonna." And actually, funny thing is that I'm proud of myself on this one because I really managed to control my emotions so much that I actually forgot about this. I completely forgot. My brain erased it, and I found out like a year later on my Go when I watched the GoPro footage again. I'm like, oh yeah, this happened. This happened, and I totally forgot about it for like a year because I was able to manage my emotions, to keep a cold mind, to do like I said, yeah, like only doing the things that will help you, no parasite thought. And yeah, I was able to handle it, to be honest, really good. So I totally forgot about it. Like 2 minutes after, it was already erased from my brain, and I for a whole year I didn't even know about that until I realized, like a year later, watching the GoPro video. Oh, wow, yeah, this happened. I forgot. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, yeah.
I have someone like something like this. At the end of Franklin Tower, which was probably my hardest project, I realized the last floor was a little bit different. They Something was covering the holes,
Mm.
so it was really hard to climb the last floor, and I didn't expect it to be like this. So I didn't took too much my time to climb it during the last floor. So I was not getting pumpy on my forearm, but I was playing with fire, and I realized like, oh wow, this floor is twice as big and there's no holes anymore. And now I might get pumpy if I keep doing stupid stuff like this. So I was like, oh wow. And I just kept climbing. I didn't panic. I kept climbing. I tried to climb it. There's no other options.
Mm.
So yeah, other options would have been to go down 2 floors, stay as long as I can there to rest as much as I can, and go back again. But I felt like I could try to do it.
Yeah,
I was just 2 meters away from the top.
yeah. Um, I know I just asked you the question about have you nearly died, climbing one of the buildings, and I understand why you said I'm not too sure because you don't know whether you were quite close to something which could have been slippery or
Yeah.
a loose bit of metal. But the other question that you probably will have the answer to is, have you had any friends that have died climbing
No, no,
buildings?
I don't know anyone who fell doing this.
Okay, okay,
I know there's other people. Of course, it's in the whole extreme sports. It's the extreme sports of extreme sports. But like, there's a lot of people who died doing this. A lot of people, doing free solo. I mean,
yeah,
but there's only like a few of us doing urban free solo right now. So in a way, we didn't have time to, like, it's a good thing. Nobody ever fell. But yeah, there's only like 4 of us doing this in the world, like urban free solo, I guess. So yeah, we're all friends. We're all much prepared. So yeah, nobody I know ever fell.
in
But there's a lot of rock climbing legends that fell. Dean Potter, Danos Man. Yeah.
the in the UK, there in the last year or maybe two, there was a guy who climbed the crane and he went
Yeah.
halfway through. And I think what he was trying to do is hold on to the crane, do like a selfie, climb back on, and then get down. And he was hanging. And then, like you said, the the lactic acid, the pump. He
Yeah.
couldn't hold on no more, and he let go, and he literally hit. It was by a railway station, and it was caught on camera, and it was, I've seen it. It's horrific. He literally bounces off the floor. And do you ever I know you said you fear of death and fear of family members dying, but is it kind of inevitable that anyone in solo, not saying you, but I'm saying, let's just say there's 10 of you, yeah? And you're doing this for 30 years, yeah? And you are known, you're athletes, you're getting endorsed, you're respected, you're celebrities in your own right, but it's a numbers game, 10 of you climbing. Probably in 30 years, someone's gonna fall. Someone's gonna probably hurt themselves or even die.
Well, if we fall, we don't hurt ourselves. We just
Yeah.
die.
Yeah.
That's simpler. Well, it's I don't see it this way.
Okay.
Like maybe, yeah, maybe statistically it will happen if there's more and more people doing urban free solo. Yeah, maybe,
Yeah.
maybe. I don't see it this way. I don't look at other people. I only care about. Well, I was about to say I only care about myself, but I mean, it's true. Like I have to care about my life. Like I'm not anybody's mom. I'm not gonna tell my friends, hey, this challenge is. I can say to my friends, this challenge is maybe too hard. Please train more before you do this climb. But I'm not gonna tell them like, hey, stop doing this. Well, I'm still climbing, so I can't act like their mom,
Mm.
and I think their mom are already pretty stressed about it, so like mine. But I the way I see it is that I only focus on my survival, and when I look at my survival, I don't see it as a statistic.
Yeah.
I really see it as, can I control this or not? Because of course it's a statistic, but it's a statistic that I have control over. I can, if I don't know, tomorrow I decide that I stop, like this goes down to almost zero, but not zero because I could still die in a car crash, or
Sure.
I could still be stabbed or something like this. So, and difference of dying in a car crash and being stabbed or anything like this is that this I can control. This situation I can save myself from.
Okay.
And this is a whole difference, is that this is why I don't see it as a statistic, is that I know what I have to do to keep myself safe. Of course, maybe, yeah, let's say technically I have like 10 times 10 more times to die than other people because of what I do. But this is honestly not how I see things, because the whole point of my discipline is to not see things as statistic, but to see things as what you can control, what you can't control. And my goal is to put as much things I can in the what I can control.
Okay.
Case,
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't see it this way. I just see it like I'm gonna keep trying to be as safe as possible in my life, keep doing things I can control, and this is how I'm gonna die old, not young.
um, in this article, it says when you're looking at a building, you condense it down to three things. Number one,
Yeah.
the height of the building, which is
Yeah.
probably the least important to you, and you've explained why, but we'll get onto that. The second thing is how difficult it is. And the third thing is there parts to that building where you can rest? Yeah?
Yeah,
So,
exactly. So now we're getting technical. I like this.
okay. So if you were to touch on those 3 points, the height of the building, how difficult it is, and also the rest, what is the most important working your way down?
So it's really funny because on the way down.
Yeah. Oh no. What's out the three the most important to you, and then go down the list.
So it's really hard to explain, and here's why. Because some of those factors can be sometimes not important, but if they're combined with another one, they can grow huge. For example, something that has no rest. It's an easy climb. it's an easy climb, but it has no rest and it's really tall. It's okay. If it's 100 meters or if it's 500 meters, what's the difference? If it's really easy, it's there's no difference. Like you take the shard, for example, it's really high, but it's really, really easy. So it's 100 meters or if it's 500 meters, not doesn't change anything, you know.
Mhm.
But as soon as you take the difficulty factors and starts to go up, if the building is also really tall, then difficulty is like multiplied, you know. Like if you take something that is quite hard and you do it like on a long, like more than 200 meters, then it's hard. And if there's no rest, it can be impossible, you know. Like a building that is easy, that is medium, and that is high and that has no rest, almost impossible. And for example, like some buildings, I would say, oh, they're not really high because they are, you know, they have good rest. The climb is easy. You take Cayenne Tower in Dubai, for example. I would say probably I've never climbed it. Probably I wish I would. I wish I could climb it, but not yet. Probably easy challenge because good rest climb is okay, and it's really tall. It's more than 400 meters. But yeah, it's more of an easy climb, so it's okay. But if you take, I don't know, like let's say Crystal Tower that have almost no rest, it's only 100 meters. But I can tell you that when I think of this climb, I feel like it's really high because 100 meters, but without any rest, and the climb is starts, you know, it's hard. It's harder than Cayenne Tower. So yeah, the height is actually not even a difficult factor when it's only by itself. But when you combine with the fact that you can't rest, the difficulty of the challenge can be multiplied. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would say that the most important is factor is like the difficulty of the building itself. Like each move difficult? And if they are there some rest in the building? And at the end, like, is it tall? Is it high? Like, for example, let's say some buildings are hard, technically hard, and there are high, but there's good rest. And if they're really good rest, it can be 100 meters or 500 meters, and you wouldn't really feel the difference once you reach the top. You would feel like a global tiredness, of course, but like when you break down each move, it's okay. But some buildings are like less high, but like the moves are harder, and sometimes like there's no rest, almost no rest, or no rest at all. And this gets so much harder if you take the rest off. And of course, there's almost never real rest when you climb a building. But for example, my last climb, I was able to let go one hands, like move my fingers a little bit, grab again, move the other hand like this, and this makes it much easier than if I was not allowed to stop climbing, you know? Like, for example, if you take a crack climbing, which means like a vertical crack in which you put the hands, it's like just as tiring to not climb than to climb. So it's basically no rest. And yeah, even 100 meters of a really hard crack climbing can be really hard. Like 100 meters of this is, for me, it's higher than other buildings, you know, that are way higher but have good rest and easy climbs.
Yeah. I find what you do just amazing, and your mindset is so strong. So you mentioned your friend Leo Urban, yeah?
Yeah.
You guys this year, March the 7th, 2022, climbed, and I'm trying to pronounce this again, Montparnasse?
Yeah, Montparnasse, yeah.
Okay, tower, which I read is the second highest tower behind the Eiffel Tower at 689 feet. Now, you've done this to kind of as a
So support.
pledge and a support to the
Yeah.
Ukraine people because of the invasion of Russia and Ukraine. You know, some people would say, not me, they would say, but look, Alexis, Leo, bring together the Ukrainian people by doing something else, raising money for charity, for example, doing a charity boxing match, going on a marathon run. Why climb a big building at nearly 700 feet tall?
So yeah, a lot of people that say this, they don't realize that we actually started charity.
Okay.
We raised donation through this act, and yeah, we raised a few thousands euros, and all of this was sent to like a family in Ukraine. So yeah, we actually raised donations, and it was also a symbolic act. We are climbers, we are not fighters, and I guess a lot of people like fighters, they fight for Ukraine. People do all their little gesture, and this is like probably like for us the easier thing to do. Is climbing. So
Mm.
yeah, we did this like as an act of like, yeah, to show support, and also like we precisely wanted to show like the bravery of the Ukrainian people that resist,
Yeah.
and this is what we wanted to highlight through what we did. And we said to the camera like we're using 1%, not even 1% of the courage like Ukrainians people have when they fight back.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. Well, look, fantastic for raising all that money. I think that's a great deed that you guys have done.
Well, it was not much, but it's honest work.
Yeah. I want to ask you just a couple more things. So you mentioned earlier about many solo urban climbers or even rock climbers, their parents do get, fearful, maybe anxiety, maybe they might feel a bit helpless because their loved ones are out there risking their lives. You got that aspect, and then you have the other aspect. I know we spoke about this before we recorded, but just touching on it, the legal aspect, because I
Yeah.
see here that, in France, you could get 15,000 euro fine. You could actually spend up to 1 year in prison. And typically when you get to the top of these buildings, you're met by the police and firefighters. And, mum and dads, brother and sisters, friends and family members, they must get massive anxiety thinking, not only could he die, but he could actually go to prison for 1 year. I mean, how do you deal with that in your mind?
Well, like this is like the jurisdiction and stuff. Like from the human aspect, everything goes well in the human aspects. Like we don't have any much like the police understand that what we do is a sport, especially because Alain Robert climbed in France so much in the 90s that now they know it's a sport. They are not discovering it. So yeah, usually everything goes really well. We take selfie with them. They ask questions like, "Was it hard this time?" And then we go like to the jail for 24 hours, and just the time to do like the procedures. But yeah, there's nothing like I wish that my sport was. I don't care about going to jail, but I wish that this was not the important part for a lot of people, and sadly it's still why a lot of people like are much more interested in like the legal repercussion of what I do than in my actual sport work.
Yeah.
And yeah, my goal for like this year is basically to show the world that it's more than just getting arrested. And yeah, because also this part of the story is not much interesting. Like once I get to the top, I do a few selfies with the police, they congratulate me, and then I go to jail. Just the time to do the note thing, and yeah, it's gone after this. So yeah, this part of the story is not interesting. A lot of people ask me about this, and yeah, it's also like same thing. People ask me always, how do you get down? Like that's not the interesting part. The interesting part is how I get up. But yeah, of course, there's legal repercussions, and of course, my family is scared for me. But to be honest, they are more scared for my life.
Yeah.
then they are scared for me on a legal side. The legal side is actually more reassuring for them.
Yeah, I guess one of the reasons why I probably asked you this question, and maybe why others do as well, is because there's a lot of sports out there. Like I'll go back to fighting. Yeah, you got boxing, you got MMA, and you got a few other things, and then you
Yeah,
have unlicensed fighting. Sometimes, certainly in the UK, in a traveller community, they will go to fields and they will fight, and people
yeah,
bet on it. And even though it's a noble sport and they have a lot of respect for each other, and you've got to be tough and you've got to have the right mindset, it's illegal. And the police sometimes turn up and they split it up and people can get arrested, but yet people still do it. And there are not many sports out there, or being an athlete, where you have to overcome the legal aspect in order to do what you need to do. And Alan Robert, when I watched his documentary, one of the first things he said is, my biggest challenge before I start to climb is to actually get onto the building without being seen. And there was quite a comical moment where he was running around the building and the security officer was trying to get him, and it's suddenly he's on the building and he's climbing.
well, he was climbing also in China, so you know
Different, yeah.
so I never feel like I have to overcome the legal aspects personally yet. I've only climbed in Europe, never in the US, but that should happen soon. So I've never tried to overcome, yeah, I've never felt like I had to overcome the legal aspect.
Yeah.
But I've definitely feel like I felt alone at time when I'm thinking like nobody can understand, why I want to do this. This is why also I never mentioned my passion or my goals to anybody when I was, just starting, because I knew that people would just either tell me I'm crazy or just laugh at my face. So, and good thing I didn't,
Yeah.
But the difference is that Anna Bear climbed in China, he climbed in the US, he climbed he climbed in places where he would get real trouble for doing this, and where people didn't know him so well. Like if I climb to France, the second the police see me, even before I climb, they will understand what's going on. Like, oh, it's Alexis, he's going to climb a building again. I know him, he knows me.
Mm.
Everything, like, even if it's the legal thing, like, people know we know each other, we understand each other. He used to climb in places where he would get jail for his entire lifetime.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I want to ask you something separate now. And this is the last part of the conversation, I would say, is about the business side of what you do. Okay.
Yeah.
So when I was coming out of school, I always wanted to become a success. I wanted to earn money because I believe with money, you could travel the world, you can, do charitable things, you can have nice things in life. But with what you do, I mean, number one, your passion must be the climbs and pushing yourself and overcoming your fears, etc. But you can't keep on doing this without really making money from it, because otherwise it's just like a side hobby. But what I've noticed with you is you've got almost 10,000 subscribers on your YouTube channel. You've got hundreds of thousands on your Instagram, and probably even more on your other. So now you're becoming this brand and this profile. There must be opportunities. So how do you think about the business aspect of what you do and monetization?
So right now I win 400 euros a month. So 400 euros, it's not enough it's not even like a fourth of the minimum wage in France. So yeah, obviously I need to get more money now. This is for sure. And now I'm doing this professionally. Like, this is my only job now. So yeah, but I will start giving like speakers events.
Yeah.
So in French, of course, my English is not good enough for this.
No, your English is really good.
Thanks. Well, so I will start giving speakers events, and yeah, this should be a good way, to monetize what I do, and also explain my philosophy, because a lot of people think I'm just, like somebody who's not afraid of death, which is when it's actually the exact opposite. And also I want to get more sponsors and also raise my price, like the more people that would be interested in what I do, the more I will be able to actually ask more money for brands to sponsor me. So yeah, there's definitely this too. Also, we have a movie that we'll be start to make soon, and I will get a percentage of this. Well, here and there. For now, I'm really broke, but I got hopes for the future. I'm gonna keep grinding until I get enough money to travel and climb all over the world.
And your ambitions, your goals, your desires is to climb in every part of the world and every type of building out there.
Yeah,
Good.
Exactly.
Good. Your training, I do boxing training, some weights, and when I'm doing the chin ups, and even last night I was holding 40 kilo on each arm and doing the shrugs. I know what you mean about the burn, because after like the fifth set, I could barely hold the weight anymore, and I'm losing grip. So you must have very, very strong grip in forearms and
Thanks.
yeah.
Well, it's endurance, like muscle endurance, and it's also really precise muscle fibers that are recruited for climbing, pinching, stuff like this. So
yeah, that's good. We got an art brand called Woodbury House. We're a private gallery. I'm the founder in London, Soho. We're about to move to Mayfair, and we actually represent. We just signed a French artist, a guy called Black the Rat, who's the father of stencil graffiti. He's based in Paris. So I do come to Paris quite frequently. If you're ever around, I would love to meet you.
Sure.
And if you're ever in London, please come by and say hello. It'd be great to maybe do some collaborations with you. I don't know how, but maybe. This is my last question. Yeah. When I started my first business, I come up with a mantra, the way of life, which goes like this: be happy, never content. Now, if I were to ask you, Alexis, your version of what does be happy, never content mean to you?
I will say I would say that being happy in the moment is not important. What is important is to work towards the goal and moving towards the goal. And the only thing that matters is the end, what you get in the end. And if we extend this to a whole life, well, I'm young, so I don't want to, I'm a young guy. I don't know anything about life, but when you die, you don't care if you're happy or not in the moment. You care about what you've achieved in your life. So I guess this thing of not caring about the moment, but working for the future is important.
Good man. All right. Well, look, I wish you the very, very best. You've been a great guest on my podcast. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you very much for having me.
And I'll speak to you again very soon. All right?
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Enjoy your rest of the day and have a great weekend.
Thanks. Goodbye.
Ciao. Bye-bye.